Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Ward. As you guys know, my name is Woody Ward. I'm the host of this podcast. It's my pleasure to come to you today. Little housekeeping rules. We want to ask you guys to hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. It really helps us out. We appreciate that. I'm excited to talk to our guest today. She's a PhD student, a millennial mother of one, member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, and the CEO of her own company. We're going to find out all that and more coming up right now on What's Up Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ronada Dominique to the show. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing wondertabulous today. So good to have you on the show. I know you're a busy young lady, so let's just dive right into it.
Okay, sure.
As our iceberg, I like to have people just tell a little bit about themselves and how would you say, or who would you say you are in your own words?
Oh, yeah. So, you got it. I'm Ronada Dominique. I'm a Black millennial mother of a 3-year-old whom I
Mm,
love very much.
okay.
I am a PhD student at a local university in Virginia. And I just, I'm me and I make that up as I go. I guess,
Mm, that's the
you
best way to
know,
do it. Yeah.
yeah, we come into contact with so many different versions of ourselves at different points in our lives. I think it's hard to say this is who I am because we're always changing and shifting and adjusting.
Hmm.
So I make it up every day as I go.
Yeah.
But I know I'm a nice person. I'm a nice.
Okay, good to know. They say every 7 years you pretty much become a whole new person. I'm finding that to be true in my life as well. So making up as you go is definitely a way I'm gonna consider moving forward here. Uh,
Mhm.
Now you're only child. What are your
I'm
brothers?
not. I'm not. I have three other siblings.
Hmm.
I'm third in line. Yeah, so I've learned from their experience and their mistakes.
Oh, so it's three more, and you're number three. So there's four
Yep.
of y'all total. So you're okay. It's
Hmm.
one after you.
Yep.
Oh, okay, good to know. Good to know. Um, I also noticed that you have went on your lock journey. How long has that been going
Oh
on?
yeah, I have been a part of the Lock Gang for 13 years in August.
Ooh, 13. Wow.
13 years. Yep.
You just wanted to give up the creamy crack. You didn't want to do that no more?
Well, I never really did that. As a young child, I think most little black girls have that story of their mom, putting a relaxer or a perm in their hair, right? So I'm a part of that story too. But middle school, high school, my mom told me she wasn't doing my hair anymore. I said,
Ooh.
okay, sure. So I had been natural since then. And it's actually a story. Most places that I've come to and how I've gotten here, it starts with a story. And
Yeah.
that's what I believe how our lives are created and developed, right? And so I
Mhm.
was walking to school, I was in elementary school, and in DC, we can walk. We don't take like school buses and stuff like that. So we just either walk or you get on public transportation. But I live close enough that I could walk. And I remember crossing the street and glancing over at the gas station. There's an Exxon on the corner, and there was a man there, tall man, probably about 6'3", I'd guess.
Mhm.
And he had locks all the way down, practically touching the ground. And from his roots till about mid back, it was just gray, like white. And
Mm.
then the rest was dark, brown, maybe black. And I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And so I told myself that I want my hair to look like that. And so I started my locks after my first year of college from that inspiration. Will I keep them that long until I'm older? Probably not, but that's how I was introduced to locks.
Your goal is to have gray locks to be like the
you
guy.
know, yeah. Now I could dye them. I could just dye them and
Yeah.
be that. But I think it was more so just the experience. Like you could just see that journey through
Hmm.
locks. And I've experienced a lot with my locks. They certainly had their own stories to tell.
Okay.
So I'll have them for as long as they'll have me.
Yeah. So if I'm correct on this, you wash them. You have to put like baking soda or
Oh, if I want to like detox, yeah.
is that what they call it?
Yeah, it's an apple cider.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Ooh, I bet that's a special feeling. So you don't have
Oh,
to do anything to it, do you? You just get up and go?
yeah, yeah. The longer they are, the easier they are to manage. I probably retwist maybe 4 times a year. six
Mm.
if I have some extra special things to do. But otherwise, I just kind of get up, spray them to keep it moisturized, and just go.
You put a big bonnet thing on it at night, that
No,
long.
I
Oh,
do have a scarf, a satin scarf that I use. Satin is important
yes.
for moisture retention, but I can't do bonnets. Like,
Okay. All right. Good to know. So we had mentioned earlier that you're a PhD student. Tell us about that whole journey and how that came about, because I don't know too many PhDs. I don't know any other than you. So tell me,
okay,
how did that
yeah.
come about?
So I have wanted to get my PhD in English since high school. And most
Okay.
people are like, what? Like that was a dream? Yes, it definitely was a dream. But it wasn't a dream that I started with. I had a TA in high school. So I went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts. That's a
Ooh.
performing arts school in Washington, D.C. And there was a TA there, and she just said, I could see you with doctor in front of your name. And no one had ever said anything like that to me before. No one had ever spoke that kind of life into me. And it changed my life. And that became the goal, that became the plan, because I was good at English. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. Like I'm only good at English. Don't ask me anything about math. Don't ask me anything about history. I just mix up all the dates and stuff. But English, writing, reading, I can do that all day.
Mm.
So that became the goal, and everything I've done since then has led to this moment. So I completed my undergraduate studies at well, I started at Seton Hall, and
Okay.
then I transferred to UNC Charlotte, where I got my bachelor's in English. And then I went to North Carolina Central,
Dang.
and I got my master's there in English literature and language. Sorry, and then I knew that I wanted to keep going, but I didn't know how I was going to afford it. And then the
Yeah.
same could be said for my master's. So I knew I wanted to get my master's, but I didn't really know how I could afford it. And so this is a story that I put. So I have a short story in a chicken soup for the soul. And I wrote a bit about my experience there. And I prayed before I did my application for my master's. I said, Lord, you know my heart, you know my desires. Just get me in and I'll
Mm.
do the rest.
Yes.
Took a deep breath and I pressed submit and I just let it be.
There you
And
go.
so a couple months later, for my master's, they sent me back. I was accepted conditionally.
Uh-oh.
Right? And so they said, you have to maintain these certain amount of grades or the grade point average for the first year or so, and then you'll be good. And
Wow.
I said, that's what I asked for. I said, just get me in. I can do the rest. And they just let me in. And so
Yeah.
I did the rest, and I did that program. I completed my master's thesis in record time. The graduate studies, the director said that he'd never seen someone complete their thesis so quickly. And I said, because you don't know me.
That's right. Yeah.
You don't know what I can do.
Hmm.
And so the same thing, I kept going and I said, okay, my plan, I could stop here at a master's because not many of my friends have master's degrees, right?
Hmm.
But I said, but that's not my plan. And I can't shortchange myself. I have
Right.
wanted this PhD for forever. And so I found a school that didn't need the GRE because I
Yeah.
hate taking tests.
I know that's right.
And I found George Mason. So that's where I am. I found George Mason. I applied for the assistantship there as well because I financially I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I said my prayer again. I said, Lord, just get me in. I've gotten
Mhm.
this far. Like this can't be the end of the road for me.
Yeah.
They sent me a email like through their portal to say, congratulations, your acceptance and for your assistantship. And so I have been going to school virtually for free because I teach composition on campus. So it's like a tuition reimbursement type thing. So
Okay.
as a TA on campus, that allows me X amount of credits, free credits a year, so I can use those credits towards my coursework, and they give me like a stipend, which pays the bills and stuff. So I
Wow.
have All that to say, I virtually completed my master's without incurring any additional debt because I also worked at the Writing Center and got an assistantship there. And I've
Mhm.
completed my PhD without any additional debt because I've
That's
been provided
amazing.
an assistantship, which any other person in my position would be hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s in debts. And I'm grateful to only have the debt from my undergraduate degree. So
Hmm.
when I say like my steps have been ordered and it's been divine, it really has been because there's no other way that I could explain how I've been able to get to this point on my own.
Hmm.
And my dreams are literally manifesting, right? And
Yes.
my steps, like everything I've done has been purposeful. It's been like on this trajectory, and I've
Yeah.
just stayed that course, and it's been working out for me. And
Wow,
that's how I got here.
that's amazing. So, have you worked a regular job at all during this time, or have you just been in school the last few years?
for the past three for the past 3 years I've been in school. So I started my program in the fall of 2019 and
Uh-huh.
I've been teaching since then. I do some tutoring. Like
Okay.
you mentioned, I have my business. So I've been assisting students as well as professionals, working professionals with their writing. So that's all I've been doing. And it is a sacrifice. I will say that. Like I said, they do give me an assistantship and it does pay the bills, but it's bare minimum, you know?
Yeah.
But I know that in order for me to complete my program in a timely fashion, I have to make these sacrifices. So I'm not taking on any extra jobs or things like that because I don't want much to interfere with what I have going on.
Mhm.
So
Okay. So you said it's bare minimum, so you're not really going out and partying or anything.
I
Nah.
mean, I'm doing that minimally. I mean, well, you
Okay.
have to consider once I started, then there was COVID. So it didn't
True.
really matter
That's true.
if I was going out or not. And so now this past year or so, when things are kind of opening up and people are becoming a bit more comfortable, now it's like, oh, I probably should be social.
Yeah.
So
Get out there.
I've been doing some social things here or there when I can. But I think everybody knows that once the school year starts, so August 1, just when the floodgates open, from August to December, don't talk to me, don't call me, don't ask me to go anywhere because I have to focus. I
Wow.
see you on winter break, I see you on spring break, and then
Hmm.
summertime. I see you in the summer.
Wow. What's a typical day like for you?
So typical day, I'm blessed in that I have some leisure and I have a toddler who's always been a late sleeper.
Oh.
And so she is starting a pre-K 3, so it's going to be a shock for both of us. But I have the leisure. I'm blessed to be able to schedule meetings for when I want to, so which don't normally occur before 11.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
can get up at 10, somewhere around there, and just kind of ease into the day.
Wow.
And so we get up, we have our morning routines, we do our self-care. Xavier, my daughter, has her own self-care routine in the morning.
Hmm.
We eat breakfast and I turn on something educational for her and I'm answering emails or responding to student requests or things like that, grading papers. Somewhere in there I'm reading articles, trying to gain some momentum that's hard to do on your own sometimes when you're in this space of the PhD program, which would be after coursework, but not necessarily into dissertation. You still have a lot to do, but now it's your own kind of momentum that you have to work on because no one's telling you what to do. You just have to do it.
Okay.
There are meetings there. So sometimes I could be sitting at my computer for about 3 or 4 hours straight because I have meetings that are back to back. And then, of course, feeding Xavier lunch and taking him outside to run around a bit.
Oh yeah.
And
Got to burn that energy off.
right. We may have a dance party, put on something on YouTube, something to get me up and moving. But after that, then 6 p.m. dinner, bath, bed by 9. I'm trying to get us there. Like I said,
Okay.
it's kind of there, but loosely. But now that she's starting school, I have to get her on schedule. So
Hmm.
part of it is what I hope for. The other part is kind of what we do, which is really loose. I've been fortunate and blessed to be able to have a very flexible schedule for these past 3 years, so much so that Xavier has been home with me this entire time, but
Yeah.
I'm still able to work. I'm still able to fulfill my duties as a student, as a professor, as a parent. And I will say it's been a sacrifice on that parent piece because I am in front of the computer a bit more than I'd like when
Hmm.
it comes to interacting with her. So that's something I kind of struggle with. But ultimately, I know that the sooner I'm done, the more time she has with me in those years that really, really count.
Yes.
And even though I have been focusing on my own studies, Xavier hasn't lacked. Like she's super smart, very intuitive. She is her own person. And so while I don't take credit for what she's learned, because there's things she surprises me with,
Okay.
I do take credit for how she's learned it, right? So she's not
Hmm.
watching mindless YouTube videos every day. Everything is educational, it has a purpose and all those things. And so I'm at the point now where I think I've done all I can do for her.
Hmm.
So now it's time for her to get that social setting while she's
Okay.
learning. So I'm excited. Am I nervous because of COVID, because of monkeypox? Yeah, but you just kind of have to lay it out
Right.
and say an extra prayer. And
Absolutely.
from what I know, the Lord be answering my prayers. So
Yeah, I can see that. Definitely that. So, uh, what are you going to do when you graduate? What's the next step after you? Okay, you got your PhD, you're official now. What do you do then?
the world is really my oyster, but there is anxiety there, and I'll
Okay.
share with you some of the pitfalls to education. Is that at the PhD level, they don't tell you or give you the tools you need to operate outside of academia.
Mm.
So the assumption is if you're getting your PhD, it's because you want to teach, it's because you want to be tenured, it's because you want to, do something in academia. So they don't really focus on those transferable skills that would allow you to excel elsewhere. And so that's what I've been contending with is, well, what can I do if I don't want to be tenure, if I don't want to teach, if I don't want to do anything related to, what can I do? And my eyes have been opened by applying to jobs, and they tell me, oh, you'd be really well in our curriculum development department or in our teaching and learning something. It's still related to teaching, but it's just different.
Yes.
And then there are people who tell me based on what my focus is, I could do diversity, equity, inclusion, right? And
Hmm.
or be a or consulting or something like that. So I know that there are options. The hard part for me, and I think a lot of PhD students, is knowing what those options are and how to market that on our resume when it really does seem like just one kind of sector that is education.
Hmm.
I
So
haven't
now,
decided, but I'm
tell
working.
me, tell me. I guess I want to know. Explain a little more about your specific degree. What does it? How would you use it? I mean, how would you like say you were in a job and you were there now? What would you do? Like, how do you help somebody else? I believe.
So yeah, that's a interesting question. So I'm getting a degree in English, but specifically writing and rhetoric.
Oh, writing
And
and rhetoric.
yes. And so essentially what that looks like from what I'm learning, because I'm also learning, right?
Okay.
And I know what that does in academia, right? But outside of academia, what does that do? And I believe from what I'm gathering is that in addition to my teaching, in addition to the experience that I've gained there, I think writing and rhetoric puts me in a unique position to be more in tune or more aware of the public and the different needs of the public and how to
Okay.
communicate with different people at different times depending on different situations.
Okay.
And so what I'm doing now, we talk about the rhetorical situation. So if we're creating this situation, how would we interact with this particular audience in this situation? So we would have to analyze the situation, analyze the genre, analyze the audience, analyze all these things to say, if this, then I would do that.
Mm.
And that's not something you get from a lot of other disciplines. Maybe I would say sociology, maybe anthropology, those things that kind of rely on that interconnectedness with people.
Yes.
But I think writing and rhetoric takes it a step further to say, I would say this, right? I would speak this, I would write this, and this is how I would do this based on the analysis of these different components. And so with how that shows up in a space outside of academia, if I'm doing diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm coming in it, maybe if I have a sociologist on the team or a cultural anthropologist on the team,
Hmm.
together we would be looking not only at what the purpose is or what the outcomes or the desires of the corporation, the entity, the institution, but we would make sure that whatever those outcomes are, that they would be inclusive of all these different people, different culture, different this, as much as we possibly could, right? And so I
Yes.
think that's how it comes up or could show up in a professional setting outside of academia.
Okay. So are you able to help? Like, I know you're near the DC area. Uh, could you actually do like speeches for congressmen?
I
Help them?
could definitely write a speech. I think I could write a speech. And so I think the misconception for writing and rhetoric is that you can tell me what you want and I could generate it. Like I can pull it from your mind. Like it's not that. It requires communication, right? Requires a connection. But what I could do is provide you with the research to say these are the types of people who may be in this audience.
Mm,
If you have your audience in mind, because you can't know what you want to say without knowing who you're talking to.
I like that.
And so for me, the question always is who's your audience? Because you have to make sure that you understand where they're coming from, their prior knowledge, their foundation, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And how they take in information best to then know what you need to say to them. Because what you don't want to do is insult the audience by telling them things they already know
Yeah.
or by saying things or using specific verbiage that are outside of their vocabulary or outside of their zone of development. You don't want to do that, right?
Yes.
Because then they're not listening to you.
Hmm.
So I think when it comes to speech writing, especially for congressmen or if they don't have someone who does like communications or rhetoric or something on their team, they really are doing themselves a disservice because you lose their audience.
Oh yeah.
Or there are things you're not thinking about when you are communicating with your audience. And we
Okay.
see that all the time on Twitter, right? Or when these
Yep.
speeches sometimes you're like, wait, what? You said what? So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you could possibly write, say, Trump's speech if he wanted to run again. You could help him to reach different audiences.
Well, no, because he wouldn't like what I had to say.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that one alone then. I'll just make it sure. But I think that's what you're saying. You can help
I mean,
people to
I
connect.
could. A lot of that would be because what you want to do, if I'm writing a speech, I want to write it in your tone, right? Your tone is important.
Okay.
How you say things is important. So I can't just write it on my own and use, so this is what I would say. I have to also consider what this person would say and how they'd say it. And for someone like Donald Trump, in my opinion, that would be hard for me to do. So I wouldn't put myself in that position. Somebody could for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but I couldn't because I just don't have that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we're
I
not
understand. So
there.
you'd have to sit down with the person, get it from there, just to get the feelings of it. So
Hmm.
wow, so you're a really good listener, I take it then.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a good listener, and I think I do well with. Sometimes it's to my detriment, reading between the lines
Oh.
and seeing what's being said and what's not being said, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes like I said, it could be to my detriment because people are like, well, that's not what I said. I'm like, well, based on what
Mm,
you said, this is how it could be interpreted. And I do credit a lot of that from my studies thus far in that awareness of what you say and how it can be interpreted across cultures, right? Across people. And so 9 times out of 10, I am very conscious and aware of what I say and how I say it because I know that once it leaves my mouth, once it I leave it on the paper, it
yeah.
doesn't matter what I intended to say. All that matters is how it's interpreted.
True.
And that is what gets spread. And so for people who are in the public eye, who, tweet and who do all these things. I think sometimes they forget that and you can backtrack and you can kind of eat your words a bit, but that
Hmm.
doesn't matter. We know that words have impact. And so
Yeah, they
for
do.
me, when it comes to writing, when it comes to speaking and in communicating with people, I do take a bit longer, not a long time, but I'm conscious and aware of what I say and how I say it because
Mhm.
of all the research and all the knowledge that I possess. And that's what I give to or extend to those who I assist with writing. You said this, but you could say it this way, or this is a really, harsh word, or this is a really charged kind of sentence, maybe kind of softening a bit. And that only comes through knowing who you're talking to, right? And
Yes.
and how you want them to interact with what you're saying. So in some instances, harsh words and super sharp words matter, right?
Yes.
But it all depends on who your audience is and how you want them to respond to what you're saying.
Absolutely. So your dude don't stand a chance with you in an argument. I take it. He
Well,
couldn't.
he's pretty intellectual too.
Okay.
I find myself getting choked up and stuttering a little bit when I talk to him.
Okay.
Because if you can think, like he thinks and he can make connections and things, and he challenges
Okay.
what I say and some of my views. And it makes for really healthy conversations and ultimately learning each other a bit deeply and a bit better.
Mm.
We have those surface level conversations, but it's really those deep ones, those kind of conspiracy theory, existential conversations that we really learn about one another in a
Hmm.
way that helps our relationship. So,
Good. Good.
yeah.
Let me ask you this: is there something that you wish you had known at the beginning of your program that you now know? Like, wow, this could have been a lot easier if I knew to do this, or that.
Yes. So I will tell you that even though my degree, they all have been English, some aspect of English, what I didn't know was,
Oh, lost you.